Well, I'm talking a little bit about my history, COPD and comorbidities, pulmonary education and rehab. PEP Pioneers. I am blessed, absolutely, to be located where I am, near one of the oldest, the oldest pulmonary education and rehab program in California. PEP Pioneers functions and results. We'll tell you a little bit about what we do and results. And then what I see is what our needs are for advocacy in the future. Okay. First thing, COPD and comorbidity. Karen did a great example of describing the lifestyle of people that are suffering with COPD. And the quality of life issues. Getting up in the morning is always a challenge for me. I'm out of breath standing here just trying to talk. And, we have challenges that make it really difficult. And one of the issues that we get into is a tremendous amount of anxiety and depression. And they refer to these as the psychosocial aspects of a disease. And that's one that isn't mentioned and doesn't get much of attention around here, but it's something that dramatically affects people with COPD because it's so hard to do anything. Comorbidities. It's estimated that approximately 2/3 of patients with COPD have one or more comorbidities, in other words, other diseases in addition to the COPD. And many of them include cardiovascular disorders, heart diseases, bronchial cancer, lung cancers, lung infections, we get a lot of pneumonias, thrombosis and blood cuts, that's the stroke side of illnesses, high blood pressure, osteoporosis, Karen mentioned, joint pain, GERD, ulcers, and again, the depression and anxiety. Pulmonary education and pulmonary rehabilitation. And I'm with a group, I represent a group called PEP Pioneers. PEP is for the Pulmonary Education Program. Pioneers because we're the very first, or one of the first in California. The main issues that affect people with COPD are the quality of life. How are we going to continue moving on with the challenges that we face? And how long do we have to live? And the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute has described a definition of what pulmonary rehab should be, and it includes exercise training, nutritional counseling, education about lung disease and how we can manage it, how to take our medicines and things of that nature, energy conserving techniques. Always exhale before you stand up is a good example. Breathing strategies like lower breathing through our stomachs. And then psychological counseling and group support. And those are all the recommendations to the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Association and what we see today in most pulmonary rehab programs. But what they most of them do is when you're done, they send you home and tell you to continue an ongoing exercise program. PEP Pioneers, I mentioned, was founded in 1977. We have since that time over 1,500 graduates and approximately about 200 active members in our organization that are on our mailing list today. We meet several times a week. We exercise together 3 days a week as a group. And I am also a member of the Better Breathers Club out of Harbor, UCLA, and that's kind of really how I came into contact with Neil and the other group here from Breathe LA. And they've done a great deal as far as keeping COPD patients together. They participated in a lot of studies, and I'm very, very impressed with their website. I use it a lot. They've got a lot of videos there, and one of them is a study done with Dr. Cooper several years ago in conjunction with Breathe LA on exercise and the treatment of COPD. And then also the Better Breathers Clubs in California. I'm not sure how many of them are part of Breathe California or not, but they were originally sponsored by the American Lung Association. Most of them meet once or twice a month. Okay, PEP Pioneers, our function is what we do and what our rehab is like. As I mentioned, we meet 3 days a week for exercise. 2 of those sessions, we have a 1-hour session twice a week with an instructor who takes us through strength and balance exercises where we get not only the treadmill type of thing, but we get to exercise our whole body, which is a very important aspect of rehab for COPD. We have monthly social functions. We have a monthly luncheon, much like the Breathers Club at Harbor. We have a monthly luncheon as well. We usually get somewhere between 60 and 80 people will show up at our luncheons. We usually have a speaker. We've had every single year Dr. Cassaberry, who spoke here recently at the last summit that you had. He's a pioneer with LA Biomed that does a lot of the research and studies on medicines. The portable, we help pioneer portable oxygen on cruise lines, and I wanted to just briefly touch on a couple of the firsts that PEP Pioneers is involved with. Our first graduate, we had 2 people graduate from our pulmonary education program at Little Company Mary Hospital in March of 1977. We began meeting weekly after that and joining a local mall to go on walks at the local mall in the early 80s. And this inspired the very first respirational rally that was attended by Dr. Tom Petty, who is considered I think the father of modern pulmonary medicine. He became a keynote speaker at many of our events and became an honorary PEP pioneer and attended many of our functions. Today, the American Lung Association has duplicated these activities and they have respiratory rallies throughout the country. We participated in the first pursed-lip breathing trials of Dr. Brian Type back in the early 80s. And we're also involved in working with the oxygen conserving devices and the oxymizer cannulas, again in the early 80s. In 1983, a PEP pioneer was denied access to a cruise because she couldn't take her oxygen on board the cruise ship with her. So we rallied and did a lot to get approval to be able to take oxygen on board a cruise. And as a result, PEP did the first group cruise from Los Angeles to Ensenada, Mexico in June of 1984. Later on in 1986, we took a group of people on a flight to Florida and another cruise in the Caribbean. And that was 1986, where we had oxygen on the airplanes. We participated in the very first HAST study with Dr. Henry Gong at UCLA, which had to do with altitude testing for oxygen use. Many other firsts that I won't go into. The benefits of our training and exercise that we do on a regular basis is reduced exacerbations and hospitalizations and a more functional, higher quality of life. Some of the advocacy needs that I see and I think that we've heard much about today include smoking cessation. I remember when I was first diagnosed with COPD that I asked for help with my getting patches and getting the tools. There was no help. It seemed like the medical or the insurance companies at the time were willing to pay for your oxygen if you needed home oxygen, but they weren't willing to pay for smoking cessation. Patient screenings is an obvious thing we've talked about. Referrals and funding for rehab. There's been some question, I really appreciate hearing from Miriam today, that Medicare is going to be having a harder and harder time paying for ongoing aftercare for pulmonary rehab. And then I think we need more PEP-like Better Breathers Clubs, where we have an opportunity to exercise and do things together socially. That aspect of the psychosocial effects of the disease, not being able to get together, and just really kind of isolating with our disease and staying at home is a very big killer, I think, of this disease. And we need more portable oxygen and related equipment for patients to make sure that we have funding for that. So that's kind of the way that I see things today, and we're sure proud to be part of this organization. Thanks for asking me to speak.
Thanks.